Hello, everybody. Welcome to Blissed Out, using fun, play, and self-care to create a life you love. And I have our special guest today is Elicia Miller, and she's the founder of the Core Emotional Healing Model. Her tagline is, "Your symptoms are your gift." Elicia realized her chronic Candida and digestive problems were a gift since they showed her the emotional root cause that freed her and hundreds of her clients from around the world from digestive problems, chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, autoimmune disease, eating disorders, codependency, addictions, poor body image, and perfectionism to live a fulfilled and inspired life, which is just so wonderful. And thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you, Krista. It's great to be here. And I love what you're doing with helping people connect to their joy and self-care, which is, everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to spread the word, right? Because I think a lot of women suffer just kind of feeling like they're alone, or they don't know what to do next, or how to get out of whatever they're feeling. And they don't always like to talk about it either.
Yeah.
Private thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this area?
Well, I suffered a lot. That's, and I always would question what was causing, whatever I was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
So, it began actually when I started doing more of the self-awareness and going within, was exploring what was causing me to choose really dysfunctional relationships. So I was actually, I got married 2 weeks after I broke off an engagement. So I got married to someone else 2 weeks after I broke off an engagement. This was when I was 30 years old, and ran off to Vegas. And it was the most abusive relationship that I had ever been in, the guy that I ended up marrying. And after 3 months of enduring it to prove that I didn't make a mistake, I was like, what made me do that? And why am I choosing actually all of those other guys that were also not good for me? So that led me to start doing a lot of deep kind of subconscious coursework. And I knew I needed something way beyond therapy. And I started going to more of an experiential process where it was a course room that helped me get to subconscious patterns that were formed based on what I experienced in my childhood. And, that was my first exposure to the work actually that I'm doing now. And that was 13 years ago. And I was in corporate sales. I was living a completely different life than I am now. So I was, high powered, overachiever, perfectionist. I went out every night and partied. I was very materialistic. I had an eating disorder. For a very long time. I suffered with bulimia that I kept a secret. I was also doing a ton of cleanses and detoxes and fasts. So I was, using a lot of things to numb my emotions. Mm-hmm. And so through the coursework that I did, I then started to get more in touch with my true self and all of the false constructs and personalities that were formed to try to get the love that I didn't get as a child started to fall away. And I was listening more to myself, spirit, intuition. And I started following my heart after like 4 years of deep experiential coursework. And I worked with mentors and things like that as well. And I ended up selling everything I owned, and following like just an intuitive hit that was very strong to move to Thailand. And so I did that when I was 34. Uh-huh. And I was researching the healing that was available there. I landed on an island that was full of detox retreats. And I was like, oh, this is like my paradise. It was like, tropical island full of all the things that I loved. And I was a retreat consultant. And I then started discovering that I had a major systemic Candida overgrowth, which was causing digestive problems and constipation and bloating most of my life. And I knew it, and I was treating it in various ways, but it was kind of like it hit me of like, okay, this is serious and you need to properly address it. And so that began, a deeper journey for me to discover what was causing that, which eventually led me to connecting the emotional cause. So it was a lot of things that I still hadn't addressed in all of the healing work that I did was causing not only the physical symptom, but the relationship pattern was still there as well. So after I left that abusive husband, I was single for 7 years. And the first relationship I got into 7 years after Thailand, after I came back to the US, I met, someone that looked completely different, but it was the same pattern. And so my symptoms actually came back when I thought I was already healed. And it was like I was in the emotional trigger that triggered my symptoms that alerted me that, hey, you're still living from this pain that you're not aware of. And so that's how I arrived to Your Symptoms Are a Gift. That's my tagline. And I did a lot of the work that I now do with clients on myself, and saw how not only my symptoms went away, but the relationship pattern did. I met my soulmate husband 3 months later. All of my emotional eating went away. All my addictions and compulsions and the things I used to use to feel better about myself all dropped away. And it was like I was free, and I was able to speak up for myself more and ask for what I needed and set boundaries and follow my heart even more and more, and create businesses and models, and now a certification program for practitioners. So everything came from that. Yeah.
You were just saying your husband might make a
a guest appearance if I call him in. Yeah.
So that's a lot of work. Now, do people have to spend that much time to get the results? Because that's a lot of time. And I think, people not up for that.
That's a great question. You don't have to move to Thailand and sell everything you own or shave your head like I did.
Shave your head too.
Yes. I was like, what else? What else?
So, I mean, just a little aside here. It's so interesting because when I was in college, I wanted to shave my head too. And my stepmother at the time was like, why would you do that? That's crazy. But I felt like for me, it was something like, I didn't want to be seen as a woman almost, or as like anything beautiful. I wanted to be seen as me, like a person.
Yes.
Not like my looks, but me.
Yes.
And so like that felt like it would do the thing to do it.
Exactly.
How did you come to do that?
Yeah. Well, I was doing a 10-day silent meditation retreat because my mind was causing the most stress at that time. So I wanted kind of more insight into like my mind and my thoughts. And one of the thoughts that was causing stress was like my obsession with my hair at that time. And like it started to fall out. And I went into like, oh my God, I got to call my hairdresser. I got to remember to call my hairdresser. Blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, I need to shave my head. It was like this instant thing, like similar to I need to sell everything I own, where it was like, I could tell what I was attached to that was causing me so like to hold on so tightly to this old identity. And it was keeping me from getting to know who I really am, my true self. So when these like insights, it wasn't like a struggle or trying to like, should I do it or not? It was this clarity, and same with moving to Thailand and everything. It was like I have to do this. It wasn't like, and I couldn't even stand to look at my hair as soon as like that insight came. I was like, I knew like I needed to do it. And as soon as I did, I felt like my true essence. And it was like what you said about you wanted to be seen for who you are. I needed to see myself for who I am. And it was so powerful. And I did detach at that point. I could care less like what my hair looked like. It had all kinds of really awkward growing out stages, but it didn't matter. And I was then detached of needing to look a certain way to feel better or okay about myself. And that, you know, I struggled with body image issues. And so I had this struggle with myself for a very long time of how I looked and needing to look a certain way. So, yeah.
Wow. So what is something that women can do to get started with that? Like,
Oh, yeah.
to do today?
Yeah. So to answer your question, you don't have to do all that unless you feel called to do any of it. But, you know, I put together a program that accelerates kind of the process that I went through, because I didn't have anyone to teach me what you know, how to get in touch with this part of myself that needed my attention and my care, and then go through a deeper emotional healing process. So I did work with, you know, a therapist when I was in Thailand that did more of the emotional work that I do now, but she didn't teach me any like skill developments or how to love myself and how to stay connected to my inner child and what I need and all of that. So I developed a program. It's like a 60-day program that helps the initial stage that's really difficult for people, and it does accelerate, you know, the process. So it's not, you know, you're not done in 60 days, but you have a lot of the skills that are needed and the support that's needed to actually go to places that you're not even aware of, that you're still living from, you know, pain or like a false sense of self, false beliefs and things like that, that I see that tend to block people from being who they really are and living a life of ease and fun and play and all of that. So it's like, I went on this journey to discover who I am. But to, you know, fast way to do that is to connect to, like, the inner child work that I do is to connect to your inner child and discover who you're not and what you had to be loved and what you had to suppress to, you know, be okay, and to kind of just go through and feel all of these things that were repressed. And from that, you know, people start to shift quicker, and symptoms start to fall away, or emotional eating does, as they learn how to take care of their emotional needs. So there was, you know, the journey that I went on was pretty long, because I didn't get to the emotional part until later on. And then that's when everything shifted so quickly.
And so in your work, you really go right to the emotional part of it right away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You go into the more of the subconscious thoughts and like what was happening when you were a child to get that core healing.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. So do you talk to us a little bit more about how true happiness and joy are repressed, as well as sadness and anger?
Yeah. It's the pain, quote unquote pain, that most people are avoiding feeling. And so this is unconscious. So that's why there's so much prescriptions, you know, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication. That's all kind of to avoid feeling pain. Also using things to numb and distract from feeling. These are all things that protected, or we have used to protect ourselves from feeling like the sadness or anger of how we were treated or neglected. And so as a child, if we weren't free to express ourselves, or if we were punished or made wrong for expressing ourselves, so our true self then becomes wrong, or our true expression, and even our joy. So many people were punished for being expressive and joyful, you know, like especially like children should be seen and not heard, or be quiet, or, you know, if there was parents that, you know, most of our parents had a lot of unresolved emotional stuff. And it was more about making the parents happy, or making sure that they weren't upset. So just being what they wanted us to be. Or there's, you know, all kinds of ranges of abuse mental and emotional and physical and sexual. Those are the clients that I work with, and many people don't even acknowledge abuse because that's another way to protect. Like, I had a happy childhood, nothing was wrong, people had it worse. And that can really keep people from doing the healing that's needed to access their true self, their joy, their intuition. So, so when we have emotions that are repressed, like anger and sadness, it's also repressing our natural state of happiness and our flow of emotions and our natural joy. And we can move once we have access to that natural flow. When we access the repressed emotions and feel them, express them, and release them, then we have more access. It's like the deeper the emotion, the deeper you can go with feeling your emotions, even like heaving, crying, or expressing anger by yourself, then the deeper you'll feel the joy, or like the more fully you'll feel joy and happiness.
This is really interesting to me. I'd like to go a little bit further into this because I definitely heard this too, the more you can access your pain, the more joy you can feel. And I remember, like, for me, and I won't get too much into like my stuff, but like, I just remember there was a time, like during my high school years, where I just started to repress the whatever negative stuff that was going on for me. And I was like, that's cool. Like, I'm okay with not feeling extra happy because this is too painful to look at. So like, how do you lead people through that pain to the other side, or to be okay with feeling that painful part?
Yeah. It's difficult for most people. It's really difficult to go there by themselves. So that's why it's pretty much impossible to do this work on your own through a book, YouTube video or whatever. And even in therapy, it's not fully supported in traditional therapy to process repressed emotions. And so I have created, based on working with clients for over the years, I saw actually once I started doing retreats and leading a group through the process together, I saw that was what was needed to make the shifts, or to help people move through resistance, was to be in a safe container that's fully supported, and hearing from other people. And so it's like the things that we hide, it's hard to access those, but we can recognize them in other people. So I continue to do those retreats, and I have a retreat partner I do in Costa Rica. I also work with my husband, who is a clinical psychologist and very intuitive, and he was trained in the experiential work as well. It was a very purposeful connection. And so we do workshops and retreats that are really can go into where people can't on their own.
So a lot of it is like physical and body oriented too, or just in person, like that in person, like connection is important.
The in-person, and I can access it online too. So, but in person, we can access more and help someone to express it because we're there, the group's there, and also the process itself. Like I embody people, I can feel people's emotions and help them connect to that tender part of themselves, to stand up for that, like to say, like, to be what you needed as a child, which is someone to care about how you feel, or, as a teenager, or whatever their, wherever their trauma is. And so it's like to go, most people want to protect or forgive or have compassion for the people who hurt them and tend to go there. And that's another protection. So it's just really supporting them to feel what needs to be felt and express it. And that can happen in different ways in retreats and the workshops that I do with my husband and my retreat partner. My husband's really skilled at kind of more the experiential work of setting up structures and objects and enrolling other people to, play out what was happening. And so they can it's like this thing that gets created, like a field of where they start to go into it more because of that. And then I do 60-day online program that's more of like the initial processed, that helps people connect to the inner child. So their inner child is we all have an inner child. So I'm sure many people have heard that before, but and just connecting to your inner child doesn't mean you're doing emotional healing. So I do the connection with the inner child to help, again, them to be what they needed and to stand up for how they felt and to have some context with their feelings. Like, people feel bad for feeling bad. And it's like, well, now you can have empathy for why you feel bad. So that's why it's so powerful. It's like you coming in to saying, yeah, this happened and it hurt. And that's why you're depressed and you just have to feel it, and this is why your life played out like this, or this is why you kept attracting people that didn't love and support you. And so going to the source of the pain and to feel it and be with it, to release it. And then it releases the beliefs, of like, I'm unlovable or I'm not good enough. Then there's a process of, once the person stands up for themselves as a child, it's easier to say no, set boundaries in the present moment, and to feel like reclaim their natural self-worth. They don't need to prove or, be a caretaker to be loved. They can caretake for themselves. And then from there, that's where self-care becomes more natural, easier at that point.
Obviously you put a lot of emphasis on healing the inner wounds, which is very, very important. Do you, someone else I interviewed also said something about how they need to clear away all of the yucky stuff first in order to access your joy. Do you ever think you can go the back way in, start by accessing your joy and then get through that? Or do you really think you need to go, I'm just curious, is there one way to do it, or can you go backwards? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course, it's not like you're not feeling joy. You can still be in your stuff and live a life that you enjoy. You may still have, like, for example, my story, my journey, I'd done a lot of work. Actually, if I had not done that work after I married that abusive husband, I was not experiencing joy or happiness. I was trying to be happy through, partying or looking good or sleeping around, so I actually didn't experience joy. So it wasn't until I, went into the pain that I started opening up to what I do love. And then I actually felt happy for the first time in my life after doing, a lot of that work, where I felt happy naturally for no reason. And I remember that's what happened. And then, I still suffered for many years. And I could access like that natural joy when I did what I loved, or I expressed my heart by supporting people. I started my own business and I taught journaling. I felt the most joyful ever, but there was still a lot of unresolved stuff that would keep me binge eating or, doing certain things to numb the other stuff that was still there.
Okay. So what are some practical steps that women can take right away to start on this journey?
I think journaling, I started with journaling, and it's not diary writing. It's more of like journaling to question your thoughts or what's causing stress, doing stream of consciousness writing, where you just write whatever is in your mind. And you could also write how you feel. So that's like really getting in touch, with your, inner self of what's happening within you, what's causing things. So just start to keep questioning, like, how does this feel? Why do I feel this way? When else have I felt this way? And that can lead you back. Now, you do need to be supported. But just like start to become more self-aware is the first step. Having that kind of witness consciousness, and even taking it further and exploring the voices in your head and what's causing stress, or how you're treating yourself, or, you know.
So like just slowing down and connecting more to your inner, your run of your inner thoughts, and then exploring them. And we talked a little bit before the interview about some books that you might recommend.
Yeah, so books that would help everyone to understand this inner child work that's so important and so powerful, would be the easiest like overview of inner child work. The best book that I read is called Healing the Child Within, by Charles Whitfield.
Okay.
And it's very, small, kind of easy book to understand the disconnect from your true authentic self and the false self that's formed based on our childhood experiences. And it's not a how-to book, but it will give a good understanding of that. And then the other one that was really impactful in my life was The Language of Emotions. And Carla McLaren, I think, and it's like how each emotion, and a lot of people struggle with the quote unquote negative emotions. There's really no negative emotions. All emotions are needed and valuable, and they can be healthy or unhealthy. So, it was really eye-opening for me when I first read that, of like the purpose of anger, healthy anger, why we need it, and sadness and grief and regret and shame. Shame is huge. This whole work that I do is on how to heal toxic shame, which is what is underlying so many things for people, struggles and suffering. That's a whole other topic, but yeah.
It's a whole other half hour.
Yeah.
Speaking of things people can do right now too, I definitely want them to check out your work, because obviously you need to go more in depth as well if you're going to be doing some deeper healing. But you have a special gift for us. Would you like to talk?
And that was another thing. Yeah. I have, so my main work is running group programs, which are so powerful. And after that initial 60-day program, I do a level 2 group program. So I've had women in that group for 2 years, and I open up all my groups, every call, with a guided meditation. So that was just one that came through me. And it can help, really connect each person to their body and emotions and heart's desires and expression, to really go into all of the valuable information that we have in our body. So that meditation is just 10 minutes, and then they can learn more about core emotional healing in that process. I'll have an email for them. They could learn more as well after they get the meditation.
Awesome. So Elicia, thank you so much. You guys go check out that meditation. It's really a great way to get started. And if you're not that into meditation yet, guided meditation is a good way to start, because you don't have to really think too much. Well, you shouldn't be thinking in meditation anyway, but you know what I mean? You get to listen, and you don't have to do anything really. You can just sit and follow what the voice is telling you. So that's really a lovely way to get started. Yeah. And I just really want to thank you for being here and for sharing with us what your work is in the world right now. And obviously it's very needed and important. And so thank you so much for bringing more awareness to the issues that women are dealing with, and for helping them to heal, because the more we heal, the better the planet is. Right?
Yes. It's that time where we don't have a choice anymore. Yeah.
So
thank you for doing this. Yeah. Thank you everyone for watching too. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.